Hi, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we are going to talk about the frequency distribution table. At the end of this lesson, you should be able to correctly identify and describe a frequency distribution table and correctly organize data using frequency distribution table. Why do we need to use a frequency distribution table? How does relative frequency differ from frequency? Let's find out. First, let's define the basic information that involves basic information about statistics that involves data. First, we have what we call variables. Variables are characteristics that vary over time from subject to subject. Okay, so these are the characteristics that changes over time. Example, consider a study regarding the influence of social media in students' preference in choosing a student leader. In this study, a researcher may include the number of social media accounts per sample student as one of the variables. So, ilang social media accounts ba meron sa isang estudyante? Okay? That's an example of a variable. The number of social media accounts. The researcher can also choose the gender of the sample student as another variable because it differs. It may have female or male, right? So it changes. Next, we have experimental unit. When we say experimental unit, that refers to the subject on which a variable is being measured. It can be a person, an animal, or an object. Example, let's consider again the study regarding the influence of social media in students' preference in choosing a student leader. If we choose the number of social media accounts per sample student as one of the variables, then the experimental unit that we are considering is a person. Next, we have what we call qualitative variable. Qualitative variable. It is a type of variable that focuses on the quality or the characteristic of each experimental unit. Okay? So, example, yung gender at saka yung color, they are examples of qualitative data. Qualitative data. Since these variables cannot be quantified using numbers. Example, yung gender, it can either be female or male. So, walang number doon. Yung color naman, hindi rin pwedeng number kasi we have red, brown, white, black, and so on. So, these are examples of qualitative data. Next, we have what we call quantitative data. Quantitative data. Quantity. So, meaning it measures a numerical quantity. Numbers ito, numbers. Okay, so it measures a numerical quantity on each experimental unit. Example, yung height. Diba, numbers yan. Yung weight, yung time, number of objects. Okay, it allows us to measure them numerically. Okay, numerical quantity as data for a given experimental unit. Again, that's quantitative variable. Next, we also have what we call discrete variable. Discrete variable. Ito naman, it is a type of quantitative variable. So, una, we have either qualitative data or quantitative data. Under quantitative data, we have what we call discrete variable. Okay, discrete variable. So, when we say discrete variable, it can only assume a countable number. Okay, countable number. Ibig sabihin, we can count them as a whole. Okay, whole numbers of values. Okay, so ibig sabihin, walang 1/2. Walang decimals. Okay, example, the number of objects is a discrete variable since it only has whole numbers as possible values. Also, the number of people. Okay, kasi wala namang kalahating tao. Right, so that's discrete variable. Contrary to discrete variable, we have continuous variable. Okay? Continuous variable. It is a type of quantitative variable that can assume more than just countable numbers. Ibig sabihin, pwede siyang sumobra as a whole number. Ano? May mga pwede siyang infractions, pwede siyang decimals. Example, yung height. Pwede namang yung height ng isang tao, 1.6. Okay, 1.65, 1.98. Alright? 2.0. Ayan. Yung weight naman, ganun din, ano? Yung time. Pwedeng 1 minute and some seconds, diba? 1.5 minutes, ganun. So, it can have whole numbers, it can be expressed as a whole number, it can also be expressed as decimals. So, they are examples of continuous variables since they may contain decimals. Right? Continuous variable. Statistical table. When we say statistical table, that refers to an organized data na naka-display na siya in a table. So, it is used to organize data in which it can also help us display the data graphically. Okay. Example niyan, yung frequency distribution table. Ano nga ba ang frequency distribution table? It is a type of statistical table that deals with the frequency. Okay, gaano kadalas yung isang data nag-a-appear, right? Or the number of occurrences, okay? Number of occurrence of a given variable for a certain experimental unit. Okay. May parts tayo ng isang simple or parts of simple frequency distribution table. It has these 4 parts. We have the category, yung variable, yung frequency, relative frequency, and percentage. Ano kaya kaibahan ng dalawa? Frequency and relative frequency. Let's find out. Unang-una yung category. This column contains the things being considered. Okay, the things being considered. Halimbawa, if your variable is gender, so female and male. Okay, female, male. Kung color naman, black, brown, red. So, those are the categories. Next, we have frequency. It is the number of times each category appear on the data set. Halimbawa, kung male or female, ilang male? Halimbawa, 5. Ilang female? Halimbawa, 11. Okay, so that's frequency. The number of times each category appear on the data set. The relative frequency is the portion of measurement. Portion. Okay, anong part ng measurement yan? Anong part of the whole frequency? So it is the portion of measurement relative to the total sample. So to get the relative frequency, divide the frequency of a fruit by the total frequency. Frequency of the sample by the total frequency. Note that the total of all the relative frequencies must be equal to 1. Okay? Pag i-add mo lahat ng relative frequency, dapat yung total ay 1. Okay? Next, we have the percentage. Ang percentage naman, it is based on the relative frequency. It is the portion of measurement relative to the total sample in hundreds. Okay, percent in hundreds. So, similarly, the sum of the percentage must be equal to 100%. Kung ang relative frequency, ang total niya should be 1, ang percentage naman, ang total niya should be 100%. Okay, 100%. Paano ba kumuha ng percentage? Yung value ng relative frequency, i-multiply lang sa 100 and you will get the percentage. Let's have an example. In our previous examples on the preference of students about the fruits, no? They are given the choices. So, ano bang out of these fruits, ano bang pinaka-paborito mo? Okay, what do you prefer? So, yung nagsabi ng apples, 4, bananas, 2. So, these are the frequency, ano? So, tinotal yan lahat and that's 20. Ibig sabihin, 20 lahat nung sumagot din. Alright? Kasi pumili lang sila ng isang prutas. Okay, so 20 samples. The relative frequency, we can get this by dividing yung 4, halimbawa, the relative frequency of apple. So, we have 4 divided by 20. So, yung relative frequency ng apple ay 4 divided by 20. Okay? And that is 0.2 or 0.20. Pareho lang yan sila, ha? Okay, kung hindi nyo pa alam kung paano mag-divide, 4 divided by 20. Of course, you add decimal, that becomes 40. Okay, so 40 divided by 20, that's 2. 2 times 20, that's 40. And minus, that's 0. So 0.2 or 0.20. Kaya we have 0.20 here. And then for bananas, we have 2 divided by 20. Always it divides sa total frequency. So that is 2 divided by yung sa bananas naman, that's 2 divided by 20. And so that is 0.10 or 0.1. Okay? Ma'am, pwede bang 0.1 na lang ilagay? Pwede rin naman. Kaya lang, we have 0.15. Okay, so 2 decimal points yan. 2 decimal places. So, para uniform sila, add ka na lang ng 0 para 2 decimal places silang lahat. Right? So, for grapes naman, for grapes, we have 3 divided by 20. Okay? And that is 0.15. And so on. The same process lang. Hanggang sa strawberries. Now, if you add all of them, i-add lahat. So, 5 plus 5 is 0. 10. So, 0. Carry 1. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So, 0. Carry 1. 1, 0 yan lahat. So, 1. So, the total is 1. Tama yung sinabi natin kanina that the sum should be equal to, the sum of the relative frequencies should be equal to 1. Okay, 1.00 in this case. Sa percentage naman, i-multiply lang natin ang relative frequency into 100. So, let's have the percentage of apples. Okay, so apple percentage, that would be 0.20, yung relative frequency, i-multiply lang sa 100. And that becomes 20%. Okay. Or shortcut natin, i-move lang natin ng 2 decimal places, no, to the right, kasi nag-multiply tayo. So, that's, move natin, that becomes 20%. Eto naman, 10, 1, 2, so that's 10%. Etong 0.15, 1, 2, that becomes 15%. Yung 0.20, pareho lang din, 20%, 20%, and so on. Pag i-add natin ito lahat, it should be equal to 100%. So, we have 5 plus 5, that's 10, 0, carry 1. So, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So, 10, we have 100%. Again, when we add relative frequencies, that would be 1. When we add all the percentages, that's 100%. Let's have an example. Courtney is deciding whether the variables she listed are discrete or continuous in nature. Okay, help her determine the type of variable she listed. Okay, what's the type of variables? Discrete or continuous? Let's have letter A. The number of grade 7 student absentees in a given class. The body mass index of a randomly selected group of students. The number of students per class. The average height of students in a given class. The average weight of students in a given class. Now, let's remember that discrete variable is a type of quantitative variable that can only assume a countable number. Okay? Countable number, whole numbers, kumbaga. While continuous variables is a type of quantitative variable that can assume more than just countable numbers, meaning it includes decimal numbers. Pwede siyang magkaroon ng decimal numbers. Okay? So, let's answer. The number of grade 7 student absentees in a given class. So, grade 7 student yan. Student, wala naman, hindi naman pwedeng mag-decimal ang student, diba? Wala namang 1/2 na student. So, letter A is a discrete variable. Okay, discrete variable. Letter B, the body mass index. BMI, body mass index of randomly selected group of students. Body mass index, pwede siyang magkaroon ng decimals, diba? Yung performance task natin last time, body mass index, pwede siyang magkaroon ng decimals. So, letter B is a continuous variable. Okay, CV na lang, that stands for continuous variable. right? Letter C, the number of students per class. Number of students per class. So again, just like letter A, wala namang kalahating estudyante. We cannot represent the number of students using decimals. So letter C is a discrete variable. Okay? Discrete variable. Letter D, the average height of students. Height of students. So, pwede siyang decimal. So, this is continuous variable. Ang letter E naman, we have the average weight of students in a given class. So, weight of students. So, pwede siyang decimal. So, this is a continuous variable. Another example. After a survey, Anika gathered the data about fruit preference presented in the table below. So, fruit preference, ilan lahat ito? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 1, 2, 3. So, 15 lahat yan. So, 15 ang tinanong niya about their fruit preferences. So, may sumagot ng apple, may orange, ayan. So, how many of each fruit are there in the data gathered? Create a frequency distribution table of the data gathered. So, we are going to create a frequency distribution table. So, bibilangin natin isa-isa kung ilan ang nag-choose ng apple, ilan ang nag-choose ng orange, and so on. And let's present that using the frequency distribution table. So, again, parts ng frequency distribution natin. We have the category, which in this situation are fruits. Okay? So, meron tayong lahat ng choices. Apple, orange, banana, mango. 4 na klaseng prutas lang ang nandito. And then, kinount natin ang apple. So, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, merong 5 apple. Sa frequency niya, 5. Ang orange naman, ilang kaya? So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, merong 6 oranges. Okay, tama. Yung banana, 1, 2. Dalawa lang. Okay. Yung mango, 1, 2. Okay, dalawa lang din. So, i-add natin yan lahat. That is 15. That's the total frequency. Okay? Total frequency. Total count of the responses. That's 15. Ang relative frequency naman, take note that the formula for relative frequency per category is equal to the frequency of that category, which in the case of apple is 5. I-divide yan sa total frequency, which is 15. So, yung apple would be 5 divided by 15. Okay, 5 divided by 15. So, pag nag-divide tayo, 5 divided by 15, okay, hindi pwede. So, 50, we have here decimal point. So, ilang 15 sa 50? May 3, diba? So, that's 45. Right? I-minus natin yan. That's 5. We add another 0. 50 ulit. That is still 3. Okay, and so 3 times 15, that's 45, and 5 ulit, and so on. 0.333 yan. So we can have this as 0.33. Round off lang natin. And then for orange, okay, for orange naman, we have 6. Okay, 6 divided by 15. So 6 divided by 15, we have, okay, add tayo ng decimal, so 60, that's 4. Okay, 422, 460 minus yan, 0. So, this is 0.4 or 0.40. So, lagay lang natin ito dito. Okay, 0.33. And then, we have 0.4. Since 2 decimal places, yan magiging 0.40. How about yung 2? 2, dalawa sila, diba? For banana and mango. So, isang computation lang natin yan. So, for banana and mango, pareho sila, no? So, banana na lang tayo. 2 divided by 15. Okay, so we have 2 divided by 15. Add tayo ng decimal point. So, isa lang yan. Isang 15 lang sa 20. Okay, so 5 and then 0. Then we have 3, 45. Okay, 5. Another, so 0.13. 0.13. So, we have 0.13 and 0.13. So, we have, kung i-add natin yan, that becomes 3 3 plus 3 plus 3, that's 9. Dito muna natin ilagay 9. And then 3 plus 4, 7, 8, 9. 0.99. So, round off lang natin. That is already equal to 1 point, or 1. Pwede nang i-round off yan. Kasi eto dito, nag-round off kasi tayo sa 0.333 at saka sa 0.133. Okay? Next naman yung percentage. So, yung technique natin kanina na diretso lang, i-move lang natin ang dalawang places yan. So, this becomes 33%. This becomes 40%. This is 13%. And 13%. So, ganun din, 99%. So, i-round off lang natin. That's 100%.